The sky turned red that Tuesday morning. No one expected visitors from beyond the stars, let alone ones who came with weapons. The Valaxian ships appeared without warning, massive dark shapes that blocked the sun and cast long shadows across cities worldwide. Alan Miller watched the skies with his squad. They were just regular soldiers, stationed at Fort Benning when the first ships arrived. Their commander had ordered them to defensive positions, but what defense could humans mount against beings who had mastered interstellar travel? You think they want to talk? Eric Jones asked. He was young, only 22, with bright eyes that still held hope despite everything. Alan shrugged. World leaders are trying. Let's hope they listen. They didn't listen. 3 days of attempted communication ended when the Valaxians sent their answer, a precision strike that destroyed military bases around the globe. Alan's squad was deployed to the outskirts of Atlanta, where one of the alien ships had landed and was deploying ground forces. The aliens moved with eerie coordination, like a single organism with many bodies. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with gray-blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Their 4 eyes, 2 large primary ones, and 2 smaller ones above, scanned their surroundings constantly. Hold position, Alan ordered his squad as they crouched behind the remains of a concrete barrier. The air smelled of burning metal and something alien, like ozone mixed with cinnamon. The radio crackled. All units engage hostile forces. Repeat, engage hostile forces. Alan looked at his Team 6 soldiers against an alien invasion. Eric gave him a nod, his face set with determination. They had been friends since basic training, had saved each other more than once in previous deployments. Now they faced something beyond human experience together. On my mark, Alan said, checking his rifle. 3, 2, 1. The world exploded. A Valaxian energy weapon hit somewhere behind them, the shockwave throwing Alan forward. Debris rained down, concrete dust filling his lungs. He heard screaming, human screaming, then nothing at all as something heavy struck his helmet. When Alan opened his eyes, darkness had fallen. His head throbbed and something warm and sticky ran down his face. Blood. He was half buried under rubble, his lower body pinned but apparently unbroken. With effort, he pushed away the debris and pulled himself free. Squad, report, he called, his voice hoarse. Jones, Martinez? Anybody? No one answered. Alan stumbled through the battlefield ruins, calling for his team. The fighting had moved on, leaving behind only destruction and silence. He found Martinez first, or what remained of him. Then Williams and Chin, their bodies broken beyond recognition. Then he saw a hand sticking out from under a fallen wall section. Alan recognized the watch of vintage Timex that had belonged to Eric's grandfather. With desperate strength, Alan moved pieces of concrete until he uncovered his friend. Eric's eyes were open but saw nothing. His chest was still, a large wound visible where something had torn through his body armor. No, Alan whispered. No, no, no. He pulled Eric's body free and cradled him in his arms. They had survived 2 tours together. They had plans to start a security business after their service ended. Eric was going to be the best man at Alan's wedding next spring. Alan didn't realize he was crying until he felt the tears drip onto Eric's face. He didn't try to stop them. What did it matter now? The world was ending. The night grew colder. Distant explosions lit the horizon as the battle continued elsewhere. Alan remained where he was, holding his friend's body, remembering their time. Together, the jokes they'd shared, the times they'd saved each other. He should move, should try to regroup with whatever forces remained, but he couldn't bring himself to leave Eric's body alone on this ruined battlefield. He didn't notice the Valaxian patrol until they surrounded him. 5 aliens with weapons, trained on him, their 4 eyes glowing slightly in the darkness. Alan looked up at them but made no move to reach for his sidearm. What was the point? The aliens didn't fire. They stood watching him with what almost seemed like confusion. One of them, with markings that suggested higher rank, stepped forward and studied Alan's face. You leak, the alien said in oddly accented English. It pointed at Alan's tears. Alan didn't respond. He just held Eric tighter. The alien tilted its head. Why do you leak for this dead one? He was my friend, Alan said simply. The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Friend? This concept explained. Alan looked up in disbelief. He was my brother in all but blood. We fought together, saved each other, shared our lives, and now he's gone. The aliens conferred among themselves in their own language a series of clicks and humming sounds. They seemed agitated, confused. Finally, the leader turned back to Alan. You feel loss for this one individual? Of course I do, Alan said, anger now mixing with his grief. Don't you understand loss? Don't you care about your own kind? The alien stepped back slightly. We are Valaxian, we are one mind in many bodies. When one falls, the collective continues. There is no individual loss. For the first time, Alan really looked at the aliens. They moved in perfect coordination, like dancers following the same music only they could hear. Their expressions, if you could call them that, were identical. You're a hive mind, Alan realized. We are efficiency, the leader said. We are purpose without the disorder of individual thought. We are... It stopped suddenly, its 4 eyes widening. It touched its head as if in pain. The other Valaxians also seemed disturbed. They shifted, looking at each other with something that almost resembled confusion. The leader pointed at Alan. You will come with us. The High Commander must study this. Reaction. I'm not leaving him, Alan said. Tightening his grip on Eric's body, the leader made a gesture and 2 Valaxians stepped forward. With surprising gentleness, they took Eric's body from Alan's arms. The dead one will come also, the leader said. For study. Alan wanted to fight, but he was outnumbered and weakened. As the aliens led him away toward their waiting ship, he didn't realize that his tears, this simple, human expression of grief, had planted a seed of individual thought in the collective Valaxian mind. By morning, that seed would grow into something that would change the course of the war. The inside of the Valaxian ship was cold. Alan shivered as the aliens led him through curved hallways that pulsed with blue light. They had placed Eric's body on a floating platform that followed behind them. Alan kept looking back, unable to leave his friend even in death. They arrived at a large chamber filled with strange equipment. Other Valaxians moved about with purpose, their movements perfectly synchronized. In the center stood a taller alien with elaborate markings on its gray-blue skin. High Commander, the patrol leader said, bowing slightly. We found this human showing unusual behavior. The High Commander approached Alan, all 4 eyes examining him intensely. I am Vexter. You will be studied, Alan said nothing. His grief had hardened into anger, but he knew resistance was pointless. He watched as they took Eric's body to another room. Where are they taking him? Alan demanded. The dead one will be examined, Vexler said simply. You will come. They led Alan to a clear cell. Once inside, he could see everything around him, but a force field prevented him from leaving. Nearby, a Valaxian with different markings prepared. Various instruments. I am ZKLAR Chief Science Officer, the alien said. You demonstrated an emotional response our scouts have not observed before. Alan sat on the floor of his cell. It's called grief. Humans feel it when someone they care about dies. Scalar tilted his head. Why? The question was so simple, yet Alan found it hard to answer. Because we form bonds with each other. We care about individuals, not just the whole group. Inefficient, Scalar commented. The death of one should not impact the function of others. That's not how humans work, Alan said. We're not a hive mind. We're individuals who choose to connect with each other. ZKLAR made notes on a transparent tablet. Fascinating. This may explain why your species fights so irrationally. You value single lives over collective success. Before Alan could respond, the door opened. 2 Valaxians brought in a human woman. She wore a lab coat with a name tag that read Dr. Lisa Collins, Xenobiology. You requested the captured scientist, Chief Science Officer, one of the aliens said. Lisa Collins looked exhausted. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and her glasses sat crookly on her nose. When she saw Alan, her eyes widened slightly. Another survivor, she whispered. Sklar gestured to Lisa. You will assist in studying this specimen. He displays emotional attachment to dead units. Lisa's expression changed subtly, but she nodded. What do you need me to do? Explain human emotional responses. We must understand this weakness. Lisa approached Alan's cell cautiously. I'm Lisa Collins. I was at the CDC when they attacked. They've been keeping me to help them understand human biology. Alan stood up. Staff Sergeant Alan Miller. They found me after my squad was wiped out. Lisa turned to ZKLAR. May I speak? With him privately, human emotions are complex. He might share more without an audience. Scalar considered this. You may have 10 minutes. We monitor everything. He and the other Valaxians moved to a different section of the lab. Once they were alone, Lisa spoke quickly and quietly. Something strange is happening. The aliens who've spent the most time around humans are starting to act differently. They're asking questions, showing curiosity. That's not normal for them, Alan frowned. What do you mean? The Valaxians are a true hive mind, Lisa explained. They don't have individual thoughts or emotions. They function as extensions of their collective consciousness. But some of them are starting to show signs of individuality. Alan remembered how the patrol leader had seemed confused after watching him cry over Eric. Could human emotions be affecting them somehow? Lisa nodded. That's my theory. Our brains produce electromagnetic patterns when we feel strong emotions. Maybe those patterns are interfering with their neural network. Their conversation was cut short as ZKLAR returned. Begin the examination now. Over the next hours, ZKLAR. Run various tests on Alan. He showed him images and measured his responses. He asked endless questions about human relationships, emotions, and attachments. Lisa helped translate complex emotional concepts that the Valaxians struggled to grasp. During a break in testing, Alan noticed something odd. One of the junior Valaxian scientists was watching him with what almost looked like sympathy. When their eyes met, the alien quickly looked away, an individual reaction. Not a collective one. That night, alone in his cell, Alan heard a soft voice. He looked up to see the same junior scientist standing outside the force field. The one you grieve for, the alien said hesitantly. He was your friend? Alan nodded. His name was Eric Jones. We served together for years. The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. I am curious about this concept, friendship. It's when you care about someone for who they are, not what they do for you, Alan explained. You protect each other, support each other. I have been designated Cadle, the alien said. But recently, I have begun to think of this designation as mine, not just a label in the collective. The alien sounded confused, almost frightened. You're developing an individual identity, Alan realized. Cadle moved closer to the cell. Others are experiencing this too. It started with the patrol that found you. Now it spreads. Chief Science Officer ZKLAR is concerned. Alan thought about what Lisa had said. Are you afraid? Fear is new, Cadle admitted. But yes, the High Commander will not accept this change. Those who show signs of individuality are being quarantined. Before Cadle could say more, an alarm sounded. The alien quickly moved away from Alan's cell. Minutes later, ZKLAR rushed in with Lisa. The emotional contagion is spreading faster than anticipated, he said, his voice showing stress. Another individual reaction. 20% of ship personnel now show signs of individual thought. Is that a bad thing? Alan asked. ZKLAR's 4 eyes focused on him. The Valaxian Empire functions on perfect unity. Individuality is chaos. Or it's freedom, Lisa suggested. ZK single quotes. Lar approached Alan's cell. High Commander Vexler has ordered more aggressive testing. He believes your emotional patterns can be weaponized against us. Lisa stepped between them. Or they could be the key to peace. A hive mind can't understand individual humans, but Valaxians who experience emotions might. Alan stood up. What's happening to your people isn't a disease. It's an awakening. ZKLAR stared at Alan for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he lowered the force field. High Commander Vexler will be here soon. If you wish to survive, you must come with me now. Both of you. Why are you helping us? Lisa asked. Sklar touched his chest. Because for the first time, I feel this is right. Not just efficient or logical, but right. His voice held wonder and confusion. I am beginning to understand what you call emotions. And I believe they may save us all. Alan and Lisa followed ZKLAR through the dim service corridors of the Valaxian ship. Alarms blared in the distance. Twice they had to hide as groups of loyal Valaxian soldiers marched past. Where are we going? Alan whispered. To a transport ship, ZKLAR replied. Many of us have been changed by exposure to human emotions. We are gathering on the secondary command ship where Cadel has allies. Lisa looked at the alien scientist with wonder. How many of you have been affected? The number grows every hour, ZKLAR said. The emotional awakening spreads like your human viruses, especially among those who have direct contact with humans. They reached a small hangar bay where Cadel waited with 3 other Valaxians. Their normally perfect posture seemed more relaxed, more individual. We must hurry, Cadel said. High Commander Vexler has ordered all affected Valaxians to be placed in stasis. Alan paused. Wait, I need to get Eric's body. The Valaxians exchanged looks and other human-like behavior they had never shown before. The laboratory where they took your friend is heavily guarded, ZKLAR said. I'm not leaving without him, Alan insisted. Lisa touched his arm. Alan, I understand, but you don't understand, Alan said firmly. I promised I'd bring him home. Cadel stepped forward. I will help you retrieve your friend? The others can prepare the transport, ZKLAR reluctantly agreed. Be quick, we depart in 20 minutes. Alan and Cadel made their way to the laboratory where Eric's body was being studied. They moved carefully, avoiding the main corridors. When they reached the lab, 2 guards stood at the entrance. I have a plan, Cadel whispered. He approached. The guards openly. Relief shift. The High Commander wants these specimens moved to the main research bay. The guards hesitated, their 4 eyes blinking in sequence. You question direct orders? Cadel demanded. The guards moved aside. Inside the lab, Eric's body lay on an examination table, covered with a thin sheet. Alan rushed to his friend while Cadel kept watch at the door. I'm sorry, buddy, Alan whispered as he wrapped Eric's body in the sheet. I'm getting you out of here. As they carried Eric back through the corridors, Alan noticed something strange. The Valaxians they passed seemed different. Some moved independently, not in perfect sync with others. Some watched them with expressions that looked almost like curiosity or concern. The awakening is spreading faster than expected, Cadel said. Quietly, many are fighting the change, but others embrace it. They reached the hangar just as ZKLAR was preparing the transport for departure. Lisa helped Alan secure Eric's body in the small ship. Your grief for your friend, ZKLAR said to Alan as they prepared for takeoff. It was the catalyst. Something about the intensity of that emotion penetrated our collective consciousness. The transport lifted off, slipping out of the main ship's hangar bay and into space. Through the viewport, Alan could see Earth below, parts of it scarred. By the Valaxian attack, where are we going? Lisa asked. The secondary command ship, ZKLAR explained. Many affected Valaxians have gathered there. The ship's commander was one of the first to experience the awakening. As their small ship approached the larger vessel, Alan saw unusual activity. Valaxian ships normally moved in perfect formation, but several were now moving independently. The hive mind is fragmenting, Cadel said. For the first time in our history, Valaxians are making individual choices. They docked with the secondary command ship. Inside, the scene was unlike anything Alan expected. Hundreds of Valaxians moved about, their movements no longer synchronized. Some spoke in small groups. Others appeared to be alone with their thoughts, something impossible for a true hive mind. A Valaxian with elaborate command markings approached them. I am Enzora, ship commander. Welcome, humans. She turned to Alan. You are the one they call the catalyst. Alan looked confused. The what? Your emotional display on the battlefield began this awakening, Enzora explained. Now it spreads throughout our fleet. Many resist, but more embrace the change with each passing hour. They followed Enzora to the ship's command center. On large screens, Alan could see battles raging around Earth as loyal Valaxian forces fought against human resistance. The High Commander has ordered all affected Valaxians to be captured or destroyed, Enzora said. He fears our awakening will destroy Valaxian civilization. Will it? Lisa asked. ZK single quotes. Lars stepped forward. Not destroy, transform. We were efficient before, but empty. Now we begin to understand meaning beyond purpose. Alan watched the battles on the screens. How many humans have survived the invasion? Many, Enzora said. Your species is remarkably resilient. Resistance forces grow stronger each day. Lisa studied the alien carefully. You sound almost impressed. I am, Enzora admitted. This is a new feeling for me. Before the awakening, we saw only your inefficiency. Now we begin to understand your strength. A young Valaxian rushed into the command center. High Commander Vexler S. forces have located. U.S. 3 battle cruisers approach. On the screens, 3 massive Valaxian ships move toward their position. Can we fight them? Alan asked. We must try, Enzora said. But they outnumber us. Alan looked at Lisa, then at the Valaxians who had helped them. An idea formed in his mind. What if we could spread the awakening faster? He asked. If my emotions started this, could we broadcast them somehow? Scalar's 4 eyes widened. Our ships communicate through quantum entanglement. In theory, we could use that network to transmit neural patterns. If we amplify Alan's emotional signature and broadcast it through your communication system, Lisa began, we could trigger mass awakening throughout the fleet. ZKLAR finished. Cato looked concerned. Such a broadcast has never been attempted. It could damage the receiver's neural patterns. It's worth the risk, Enzora decided. Begin preparations. As the Valaxians worked to create a broadcasting system, Alan stood by Eric's body, still wrapped in the sheet. I think you're still helping save the world, buddy, he said quietly. Just not the way we expected, Lisa joined him. Are you sure about this? We don't know what broadcasting your emotions might do to you. Alan looked at the approaching enemy ships on the screen. I'm sure. If feeling grief and love can stop this war, it's worth whatever happens to me. ZKLAR approached with a strange device. We are ready. This will connect you to our communication network. Alan took a deep breath and nodded. Let's do this. The device ZKLAR placed on Alan's temples felt cold against his skin. Strange lights pulsed along its surface, matching the rhythm of his heartbeat. This will amplify your neural patterns, ZKLAR explained. But we need strong emotional responses. To broadcast, Lisa looked concerned. How do we trigger those emotions? I have an idea, Alan said quietly. He turned to Cato. Can you bring Eric's body here? Cato nodded and left the room. Meanwhile, on the main screen, the 3 enemy battle cruisers grew closer. Alarms sounded throughout the ship. We have 20 minutes before they are in firing range. Enzora announced. Cato returned with Eric's body, still wrapped in the sheet. Alan asked them to place his friend on a table nearby. Now I need everyone to leave me alone for 5 minutes, Alan said. Lisa touched his arm. Are you sure? Alan nodded. I need to focus on my feelings without distractions. The others left the small chamber. Alan sat beside Eric's body and gently pulled back the sheet to reveal his friend's face. He looked peaceful now, almost like he was sleeping. Hey, buddy, Alan said softly. I need your help one more time. He closed his eyes and let his mind fill with memories. He remembered meeting Eric during basic training, both of them young and nervous. He remembered their first deployment, how they'd protected each other. He thought about all the plans they'd made for the future, plans that would never happen now. The grief came in waves, powerful and raw. But Alan didn't stop there. He thought about all forms of human connection. He remembered his parents and their unconditional love. He recalled his first kiss, the warmth of falling in love. He thought about the pride he felt watching his younger sister graduate college. He remembered the joy of his nephew's birth, holding that tiny new life in his arms. The device on his temples grew warmer. The lights pulsing faster. Outside the ship, something unexpected was happening. On Earth below, human resistance fighters noticed the Valaxian forces suddenly becoming disorganized. Captain Frank Winters, leading a small group of soldiers in the ruins of Chicago, watched in amazement as 3 Valaxian ground troops stopped firing and looked around in confusion. "Something's wrong with them," his second-in-command, Lieutenant Sofia Rodriguez, said. "They're acting strange." Frank saw an opportunity. "All units, push forward while they're disoriented." Across the globe, human forces began to gain ground. As more Valaxian soldiers showed signs of confusion, some even lowered their weapons and retreated. Back on the secondary command ship, Lisa and the others returned to find Alan slumped in his chair, tears streaming down his face. The device on his temples glowed brightly. "It's working," Sklar said, checking the readings. "His emotional patterns are being broadcast through our network." On the main screen, they could see the approaching enemy ships slowing down. Communication channels suddenly filled with confused messages from Valaxian commanders across the fleet. "What is happening? Strange thoughts. Individual awareness spreading. Cannot maintain collective control. Inexora turned to Lisa. "The awakening is spreading throughout the fleet. Even those who resisted before are now experiencing individual thoughts." But the High Commander's flagship continued its approach. Vexler's voice boomed through the communication system. "This corruption of the Valaxian mind will not stand. All ships target the secondary command vessel." 2 of the approaching battle. Cruisers hesitated, their weapon systems powering down. But Vexler's flagship continued forward, weapons ready. "He's going to fire on us," Cadel warned. Alan opened his eyes, looking exhausted but determined. "We need to take this to the source." "Can you get me aboard Vexler's ship?" "That would be suicide," Inexora said. "Not if enough of his crew has been affected by the broadcast," Alan argued. "We just need to get close enough for me to reach him directly." Lisa shook her head. "It's too dangerous." "We don't have a choice," Alan said. "As long as Vexler remains connected to the old hive mind, this war will continue." After a brief discussion, they formed a plan. Alan, Lisa, Zugsalar, and Cadel would take a small transport to infiltrate the flagship while NXORA created a distraction. As they boarded the transport, Alan paused beside Eric's body one last time. "I'll be back," he promised. Their small ship slipped away from the command vessel just as Vexler's flagship opened fire. The blasts rocked Zora's ship but didn't destroy it. "The weapons operators must be affected," Zkaler observed. "They're not firing at full power." They approached the flagship from below, using the chaos to dock at a maintenance bay. Inside, the corridors were strangely quiet. "Where is everyone?" Lisa whispered. They soon found out. Valaxian crew members wandered the hallways, some looking confused, others in heated discussions, something never seen before in their perfectly ordered society. "The awakening has reached them," Cadel said. "But Vexler controls the ship's core functions through direct neural link. He can override their individual actions if needed." They made their way toward the command center, encountering little resistance. Most Valaxians simply watched them pass with curious four-eyed stares when they reached the command center doors. However, they found 10 guards standing at attention, their movements still perfectly synchronized. "Vexler's personal guard," Sklar explained. "Selected for their resistance to outside influence. They are more deeply connected to the hive mind than ordinary Valaxians." Alan studied the guards. "We need a distraction." Before they could form a plan, alarms blared throughout the ship. On nearby screens, they saw human forces launching a coordinated attack against Valaxian positions around the globe. "The humans are fighting back," Lisa said with pride. Cadel nodded. "And many Valaxians are no longer fighting. Look." On the screens, they could see Valaxian troops standing down, some even helping humans. The emotional awakening had spread to ground forces as well. "Now's our chance," Alan said. While the guards were distracted by the alarms, they rushed to command center doors. A brief struggle followed. Scalar moved to protect Alan, placing himself between the human and the guard's weapon. "Go!" ZKLAR shouted as the energy blast hit him. "Reach Vexter!" Alan watched in horror as ZKLAR fell. There was no time to help him. He and Lisa pushed through into the command center with Cadel right behind them, inside High Commander Vexter. Sat on a raised platform, connected to the ship by multiple cables attached to his head and spine. His 4 eyes glowed with unnatural light. "The human catalyst," Vexter's voice boomed. "You have corrupted my people with your emotional weakness." Alan stepped forward, the device still attached to his temples. "It's not weakness, Vexter. It's what makes life worth living." Vexter rose from his chair, towering over Alan. "I will end this corruption now." As the High Commander reached for him, Alan did something unexpected. He didn't run or fight. Instead, he stepped forward and placed his hands on either side of Vexter's face, bringing their foreheads together. "Feel what I feel," Alan whispered. "Not just grief, but everything. Hope, love, compassion, all of it." The emotional amplifier on Alan's temples glowed brilliantly as he poured every human feeling directly into the High Commander's mind. Light filled the command center as Alan pressed his forehead against Vexter's. The High Commander froze, his 4 eyes wide with shock. For a moment time seemed to stop. Then Vexter screamed. It was a sound no Valaxian had ever made before, raw, primal, full of emotion. He fell to his knees, pulling Alan down with him. Lisa moved to help, but Cadel held her back. "Wait," he said softly. "This must happen." Vexter trembled as Alan's emotions flooded his mind. The cables connecting him to the ship sparked and hissed. One by one, they disconnected, falling away like dead snakes. "What is this?" Vexter gasped. "These feelings—" "It's what makes us human," Alan said gently. "The connections between us. The care we have for each other. It hurts," Vexter whispered. "Yes," Alan agreed. "Feeling does hurt sometimes. But it also brings joy and meaning." The ship's alarm suddenly went silent. On the screens around them, the battle paused. Valaxian ships stopped firing. Ground troops stood motionless. "What's happening?" Lisa asked. Cadel checked the ship's systems. "The High Commander has ordered all forces to stand down." The command came from his neural link before it disconnected. Vexter raised his head, looking at Alan with new awareness in his 4 eyes. "I felt your grief for your friend. But then, something else, something I have never known." "Compassion," Alan said. "Understanding another's pain and wanting to help." "Yes," Vexter said slowly. "I understand now. We came to conquer because we saw only weakness in your emotions. We were wrong." Alan helped Vexter to his feet. The High Commander seemed smaller somehow, more individual and less imposing. "Order your forces to withdraw from Earth," Alan said. Vexter nodded. He approached the command console and spoke. His voice, once cold and mechanical, now carried feeling. "Attention all Valaxian forces. This is High Commander Vexter. The invasion of Earth is over. I order all forces to cease combat operations immediately." As dawn broke over the battlefield where Alan had first been found, something remarkable happened. The Valaxian army simply vanished, not by disappearing, but by standing down. Troops returned to their ships, attack vehicles powered down. The war ended not with a final battle, but with a moment of understanding. 1 week later, Alan stood in a cemetery outside Atlanta. Rows of fresh graves stretched before him, including Eric's. Lisa stood beside him, along with Cadel and, surprisingly, Vexter himself. "Your people honor their dead this way?" Vexter asked, watching as families placed flowers on graves. "We remember those we've lost," Alan explained. "It helps us heal." Vexter nodded slowly. The Valaxian way was to recycle fallen units without ceremony. Now many of us wish to learn your rituals of remembrance. In the days since the confrontation on the flagship, changes had swept through Valaxian society. Their ships remained in Earth orbit, but as peaceful visitors rather than conquerors. Many Valaxians chose to maintain their connection to the collective, but with a new capacity for individual thought. Others, like Cadel, embraced full individuality. What happens now? Lisa asked as they walked away from the cemetery. A new beginning, Vexler said, for both our peoples. They reached a nearby field where a joint human-Valaxian team was setting up a research station. Dr. Lisa Collins had been appointed to lead a scientific initiative studying the unexpected bond between human emotions and Valaxian consciousness. We've discovered that humans naturally produce neural patterns that resonate with our collective network, Cato explained. No other species we've encountered has this ability. Your emotions aren't weakness, Vexler added. They're a different kind of strength, one we never understood before? Alan watched as human and Valaxian scientists worked side by side. It was strange to see the same beings who had brought so much destruction now helping to rebuild. Have you decided? Lisa asked him. Alan nodded. The military had offered him a new position as liaison between Earth forces and the Valaxians. His unique experience made him ideal for the role. I'll do it, he said. For Eric, for everyone we lost. Vexler, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. Your friend, the one you grieved for his sacrifice, has changed the course of two civilizations. He wasn't trying to be a hero, Alan said. He was just my friend. Perhaps that is the most important thing to be, Vexler replied. That evening, as the sun set, Alan returned to the battlefield where he had been found crying over Eric's body. The area had been cleared of debris, but he could still see the exact spot in his mind. He wasn't alone. A group of young Valaxians approached cautiously, led by Cato. These are newly individualized younglings, Cato explained. They wished to meet you. The young Valaxians gathered around Alan, their 4 eyes blinking with curiosity. Is it true? One asked. Did you change everything because you cried for a friend? Alan smiled sadly. I just missed someone I cared about. The change happened because your people were ready for it. Will you tell us about friendship? Another young Valaxian asked. We wish to understand. Alan sat down on a rock, and the Valaxians settled around him like children at story time. I'll tell you about my friend Eric Jones, Alan began. He was brave and kind and funny. He loved spicy food and old movies. He was afraid of heights but jumped out of airplanes anyway because he said doing scary things made him feel alive. As night fell over the battlefield, something new was born. Not just peace between two species, but understanding. The Valaxians listened, learning about human connection through Alan's stories. And Alan found that sharing these memories helped his grief transform into something healing. The stars appeared overhead, the same stars that had brought the Valaxians to Earth as conquerors. Now they shone down on a different scene, former enemies sharing stories, learning from each other, building something new from the ashes of conflict. In the darkness where Alan had once wept alone, there was now light, understanding, and hope. The army had vanished, but something greater had taken its place.